Hey, good morning, App Properties. It's Amy and Kevin with your coaching and training team. Thanks so much for joining us for coffee and to talk a little bit about productivity. You know, we're doing a lot over these next few days to really focus on, coming together as a group, staying focused on the day-to-day, and the better we can, work together to maintain momentum and service our clients, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. Really excited to do this the second day in a row, and I think hopefully that you found this valuable. Today, what we're going to talk about is about information. There's information everywhere, and so it's really important when we're being inundated and scrolling through social media and seeing articles and all this information that we know what is legit and understand if we're going to share it, what we're sharing, and when we're sharing, how to share it. Because, we'll talk about it, but we're all getting emails and we're getting inundated from every company we've ever done business with ever in our life. And so if you're going to share information, making sure that it is accurate, making sure that you aren't bombarding people and you are sharing something that's valuable. So today we're going to talk through some of the tips in how to ensure that what you're sharing is in fact accurate and legit. We're going to talk about the actual sources, where to find the best information that's relevant not only to us and our industry, but certainly to your consumers and the world at large. And then we're going to talk about how to share the information. Where are the places where you can share it, and what are the best practices in sharing so that you don't become a spammer?
Yep, so let's talk a little bit about how to make sure it's legit. You want to make sure that you are really concentrating on valid, well-known sources. Good examples are the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. These are some really great national sources of, timely news and information that's going to make sure that, you're really focusing on the right info to share. It's really important to watch for fake news. So that's something that is happening a ton right now out there. So you want to make sure that when you are sharing information, you do know that it is factual and accurate information that you're passing on to clients, friends, and people that you know. Just so you know, Wikipedia has a list of sites known to have more rumor-driven information, outright hoaxes, and even just kind of risky journalism. So make sure to check out Wikipedia. It's a great resource before you decide to push anything out to the people that you know. Other thing that's really important, make sure to check the dates of the information that you're looking at. This might be an article that you're reading for the very first time, but if it's something that was, posted a few days ago, that's already old news. So you really want to make sure that the information you are sharing is accurate and timely. Don't post outdated info. It's likely that somebody's already taken a look at it. For stories that seem a little bit off or wild, please make sure to do some of that fact checking. I had somebody send me something yesterday morning that said we were going to be on a 48-hour to 72-hour national lockdown. 3 hours later, it was a follow-up text, and somebody let me know that it was actually information that was false. So, make sure to check fact sites like Snopes or factcheck.org. You really just want to make sure that if you are putting info out there, it's the right stuff. Know the info you're sharing is legit before you get it out there.
Yeah, that's right. Once it's out there, there's nothing you can do to get it back. So, I think the first step is finding where the sources are that provide accurate information, because there are two types. There are real journalists, and those are the ones that look behind the scenes and make sure before they publish anything, whether it's for liability, for credibility, they make sure that the information they're publishing is accurate. And then there are the sites that really just try and create hoaxes, or they try and create panic. And we've all seen those before. And so really, where are the sources you can find this good information? Well, those real journalists. So if we talk about the New York Times, or we talk about the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, those are all accurate sources because they do the background search behind it. And the interesting thing right now about New York Times, if you download their app, you have free access to all the COVID-19 updates. So you don't need to be a subscriber. I highly recommend you do, because it's a good source of information all the time. But right now you can download the app and get free information there. And then locally, we have Crane Chicago Business, and they're doing the same thing in terms of updates with what's going on locally with businesses and in the industry. So that's a good place to find information that's accurate that you can share. And even more locally than that, if you're in the city, if you're in Chicago, check your alderman's website. You can check your municipality's website. If you're in the suburbs, you can see information that the government is putting down on a hyper-local basis. You can see how it's affecting your community where you live. And then we all are part of, most of us are part of Facebook. We know there are Facebook groups out there, whether it's by community, by neighborhood, there's Nextdoor. That's a place to get information, but I would also take that with a grain of salt, because that is sometimes a place where panic and rumors and all these other things start. So I think it's really important to verify before you reshare or text someone the information that you check out and make sure it's legit. And then within the industry, and we talked yesterday a little bit about how to communicate with current clients, whether they're in the pipeline or they're active. And so within the industry, there are some good sources too. It's NAR at realtor.org. They're putting out some good information. And really, that's a lot about best practices and how to be safe while we're continuing to service our clients. And then Keeping Current Matters. That's a blog. It's keepingcurrentmatters.com. And there, what they do is they'll give you information and slides and data that you can share with your clients. That's really helpful. We have Inman, and we're all aware of Inman, inman.com, Inman News. They're sharing information there. But then there's something unique too, especially if you're working with investors or if you want to get a feel for the market. There's something called Bigger Pockets, and that's biggerpockets.com. And if you go there, there are discussions with really experienced investors. Again, take things with a grain of salt, because these may not be experts they may not be economists, but they're in the market, they're in the industry. And so there's one specific discussion thread right now. I think it has 550 or so comments. And most of the people in there are experienced investors. And they're talking about, what they foresee happening in the real estate market. And these are people that have been in it for 20, 30, 50 years. So it's a good source if you want to pull some information down. Again, when we're talking about accuracy, I would throw a little bit of, when you're talking with clients, or putting it out there, make sure it's not you saying it, but it's, that someone else, that there's an experienced investor that is saying these things. And then lastly, with all of these sources, when you go there, I would make sure, to my last point, I would make sure to quote them. If you're putting out information, make sure it doesn't seem like you're the one that's putting out the expert information, because none of us wants to be wrong. And while these sources are accurate, it's really important. Don't plagiarize. Don't take someone else's information, news, data, and share it as your own. Just make sure to quote the source where you got it.
Yeah, that's great, Kevin. And, two other things that I was thinking about as you were talking is also, a lot of the school websites are really trying to keep some timely information out there. So if you have, kids in school, whether it's CPS in the city or a lot of the different districts in the suburbs, they are also trying to keep some, timely information. So I think those are other great resources. Again, always quoting and fact checking before you're really planning on posting anything. But there's a lot of good information out there to share. So now I want to talk a little bit about how to share the info, because I think that's super important. We all know how many emails we got yesterday. To Kevin's point, every company we've ever signed in and given them our email address, we're suddenly getting, their position on how they're handling COVID-19. That's great, but, keep in mind that your clients are being bombarded as well with a lot of email. And so when you're thinking about how to share and how to be impactful, email is okay, but just, I think, use it effectively, use it sparingly, and maybe think of other ways to be able to be connecting, with your clients. Who's the audience? And I think thinking about what is the info that you're wanting to share. You don't have to feel like you're, making, a point that where you have to get all of your information out. Be mindful that they're pulling information from all different places. So I think where you can have very directive information and good insights that really don't, overwhelm your audience, I think is going to be really impactful. The other thing is one message, one focus, right? Kind of keep it simple. And like everything though, the other thing to really think about is that consistency is key. So if you're deciding that you're going to, be a source for your network, figure out how you can do that in a way and really maintain consistency. Because if you post something on Monday and it's great, but then you aren't posting anything for 3 or 4 days, that isn't really creating a consistent message. To me, in this environment right now, if you can be a resource or a connector in your community, that's super important. There are some social media outlets. There is obviously Facebook, Instagram. Many of us have Nextdoor, and there's also just a number of different private Facebook groups. These are really great places that if you've got the right information, you can definitely share, and you can also really focus on being a super connector. One of the things that I think that's really important is there's a lot of national news, but we also really have to look at, we are community connectors as real estate brokers, and we're constantly trying to figure out what's happening, locally in our neighborhoods. And really at this point in time, how can you be helpful to people in the neighborhood? We've got a lot of elderly individuals right now who might be struggling. So, as you're thinking about what information you're sharing, think about the type of impact you're going to be making. The other thing that I think is really important is please be careful to not be too political. We're in an environment right now where, political feelings are running strong. We all have, our own thoughts and views, but right now this is about being a calm source, somebody who's being reasonable, focused on being solution oriented. And so just kind of keep that in mind with any of the posts and any of the communication that you are sharing. Another way to think about how to impact people within your community or within your network. I just did this yesterday with, some people, both my family, but also small groups of friends. We started creating small text threads. So that could be a really great way to get in front of an audience. It's a little bit more targeted. We also share a few comical things. I think everybody has seen how to make a quarantini at this point in time. But the idea is to really be able to, if you want to dial in and connect and make a difference, sometimes these smaller environments can really be impactful. So think about doing small text threads, maybe even creating a small private Facebook group, for some of your closest friends, clients, whatever seems appropriate. But, think about how to be a little bit different in this environment where it's really easy for anyone to simply share, forward, or post information. You want to be accurate, you want to be a reliable resource, and you want to be the connector. So think about how you're standing out and maybe making a difference when you are communicating information from all of these sources.
Yeah, that's great, Amy. And this reminds me of at the very beginning of this crisis or pandemic, when people were sharing that you could make yourself immune by gargling bleach. You don't want to be the person that told everyone to gargle bleach. So really important info. And really, to Amy's point, I think what's really important in the opportunity here is something that Ninja always says, which is we're not selling. The goal is to attract people to you. And if you can be the source of quality information, and whether that's in your community, within, whatever groups you're a part of, if you can be attractive, they will want to do business with you. And so,
for sure. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Sorry, Kevin. I was just going to say, super important, keep in mind, this isn't about the real estate right now. It's really about connecting with individuals, figuring out how you can be helpful. And, I guarantee you the real estate results will follow.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you do the actions, the business will come. So don't focus on the real estate right now. Focus on the relationships, right?
Yep.
Great. So you'll receive, if you haven't already, you'll receive an invite. We're doing a couple of, we'll call them town halls throughout each of the regions. So you've probably already received an invite. Check your email, but we hope to see you there over the next few days. And then we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Again, as always, if you have any suggestions, ideas, thoughts, you can hit us up at coaching@properties.com. That's atcoaching@atproperties.com. And thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys.